Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. I guess I should be thankful for small blessings. The better album got the album bomb, and that might mean the charts are a little bit more manageable this week, right? Well, wrong, because apparently everyone decided to use this past week as a release window, and while that managed to stifle a lot of chart movement in between week after week album bombs, it does mean for one of those cases where there's no clear answer surrounding what will actually have traction going forward, or what's just capitalizing on the space right now. And considering there's not much that's truly great right now, it winds up considerably more tedious than it really should. And speaking of that, let's look no further than our top 10, where Butter by BTS is somehow stable at number 1. Well, okay, somehow is probably the wrong word, because the diehard fanbase is buying up every remix copy the band is shoveling out to prop up the sales numbers, because it sure as hell does not have the streaming or the airplay to go all that further. Again, not really against the tactics, I get what they're doing, but you could really choose a better song to do it rather than a sloppily balanced and sanitized Bruno Mars riff with less personality. At least Good For You by Olivia Rodrigo is holding up at number 2. Even if it can't narrow that sales margin, the streaming is still ridiculous and the radio surge is impressive. The second BTS wavers, this could make a run. Then, holding up shockingly well, we got Levitating by Dua Lipa and DaBaby at number 3, which somehow has not faded on the radio just yet and actually picked up a little bit of streaming this week. I gotta admit, this has lasted a fair bit longer than I thought it would. But then finally making a move, we've got Kiss Me More by Doja Cat featuring SZA at number 4. I will say, if the gains are well timed, this could make a run for the very top, given Doja Cat is likely to see some charting success for her album coming up in a few weeks, especially as the radio run is now in full swing and streaming is up. And you know what? That finally pushed this song over Peaches by Justin Bieber featuring Daniel Caesar and Giveon at number 5, and that might have happened anyway. It's down across the board, even if it peaks on the radio. Then we got Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic at number 6. All it really has is radio, and it's clearly peaked. And Save Your Tears by The Weeknd and Ariana Grande at number 7, which might have actually recovered some flagging streaming, but it's losing everywhere else. Then, holding steady, we got Astronaut in the Ocean by Masked Wolf at number 8. Somehow people are still buying this, even as the radio is now skidding. And then re-entering the top 10, we got Montero, Call Me By Your Name by Lil Nas X at number 9, which again, it's got a radio run, but it might be too little too late to get any higher. And that just pushed back Deja Vu by Olivia Rodrigo down to number 10, which still has a lot of streaming, and it's on its own radio run, but with the label throwing a lot more support behind Good For You, this is just riding on a lot of existing momentum, and frankly, I don't expect it's going to go much higher. And while we're in this territory, our losers and dropouts, with a decent few in the latter category, with Back in Blood by Pooh Shiesty clinching its year-end spot, We're Good by Dua Lipa, and What's Next by Drake, which are right on the borderline, and Tombstone by Rod Wave, and Your Power by Billie Eilish falling considerably short as they exit. But, our losers are more of just album bombs losing momentum naturally. From Olivia Rodrigo, we got Happier at 40, Favorite Crime at 43, Brutal at 52, Jealousy Jealousy at 69, Enough For You at 73, and One Step Forward, 3 Steps Back at 95. And then from Lil Baby and Lil Durk, we had Hats Off with Travis Scott at 49, How It Feels at 80, Voice of the Heroes at 82, 2040 at 94, and Still Running with Meek Mill at 99. And also from J. Cole, we have Pride is the Devil with Lil Baby at 84. But the rest of our losers, they're either new arrivals, Late at Night from Roddy Ricch at 35, and Lost Cause by Billie Eilish down hard to 77, or you got some continued drop-offs like Miss the Rage by Trippie Redd and Playboi Carti at 98, or, well, Up by Cardi B, which comfortably has clinched its year-end list spot, and while there is a part of me that still is convinced it has underperformed, it looks like it's heading out pretty gracefully at 42. One more album bomb, this is gone. But then we gotta go to our gains. And here's the thing, I don't know how much I can value any of these, especially as the majority of them are Nashville country songs that are leaping up to fill in the gaps from the last album bombs that were debuting higher and now have fallen away. Famous Friends by Chris Young and Kane Brown at 28, Little Bit by Nelly and Florida Georgia Line at 37, Single Saturday Night by Cole Swindell at 60, Drinking Beer, Talking God, Amen by Chase Rice featuring Florida Georgia Line at 78, and finally Things a Man Gotta Know by Blaney Lainey Wilson, thankfully adding a bit of quality at 81. But outside of the expected boost for Straightenin' by Migos up to 23, and the predicted rebound for Gang Gang by Polo G and Lil Wayne at 48, am I expected to be all that happy that Arcade by Duncan Lawrence got a boost to 74? Or that Way Less Sad by AJR is up to 68? I warned y'all that this could become a hit, especially with the radio that's now slipping in behind it. The one little bit of solace I got is Leave Before You Love Me by Marshmello and the Jonas Brothers, which is rising up a little bit to 58. It also has some radio, it's got some momentum, I guess there's upside here. Anyway, the larger story is that of our two album bombs, Polo G delivered very convincingly, not just with Epidemic being the only return at 88, but also going into our lengthy list of new arrivals for the songs that did not make the top 40 and are neither the best nor the worst. And in my longer episode on the Pulse, I already talked about the album and mentioned some of these songs. Bloody Canvas at 97, Boom at 89, Go Part 1 with G Herbo at 86, Heart of a Giant with Rod Wave at 83, Man It Should Be Better, Clueless with Pop Smoke and Fivio Foreign at 79, Toxic at 63, Painting Pictures at 59, and Black Hearted at 53. And yet we still have a sizable list of new arrivals, starting off with number 100, You by Regard, Troye Sivan, and Tate McRae.
When I talk to my friends, I talk about you. When the Hennessy's all I see is you, it's you, it's you.
I kind of feel bad for Troye Sivan here. I've never thought he was a great pop presence, but he's had better grooves than most, and I would honestly prefer to see more of his solo material get some traction rather than a collaboration with a house DJ rapidly eclipsed by everyone else doing his sound better, and one of the more anonymous Billie Eilish copycats I have heard in recent memory. But this was a song that's had some international presence for a while now, so I knew it was only a matter of time before it crossed over proper, and yeah, I'm not exactly wowed here. Part of my issue with Regard is that for this brand of house, you want a slightly quicker tempo for that pulsating groove, and his bleeping drop here is really not impressive. But what might be more egregious are all the watery layers drizzled over Tate McRae's voice to make her sound more like BB Rexa, and that's not a compliment. And it's not like she's got much chemistry with Troye Sivan here, who outside of being gay and not really a fit opposite her given the content, he's just got a way better command of this sort of atmosphere than she does, at least until the bridge, where Troye Sivan is drowned out in his own blend of warping effects. Honestly, this feels like the sort of fusion that a label thought was a good idea, rather than one that flatters all their own individual strengths. Just more forgettable than bad. Let's move on. Number 93, Fiel by Los Legendarios, Wisin, and Jhay Cortez. And speaking of jamming three acts regardless of chemistry onto a track that's gotten some international traction, here's the reggaeton production duo Los Legendarios teaming up with Wisin and Jhay Cortez to maybe ride out some of the residual popularity from Dakiti, and wow, again, I am not impressed. Partially because Los Legendarios give them a lot of production with these faded, gurgling textures and a padded kick that really has no punch here, but also because their collaborators have shockingly little interplay or chemistry as well, with both having their own squawking verses that don't exactly complement each other. But that is kind of the weird thing. The song is all about trying to woo over some girl who isn't with either of them. That's kind of the feel with this sort of reggaeton, but it's not really fun or smooth enough for me to like either of their verses. The atmosphere and brand name references just don't give us enough. But in reality, I've heard so much bargain barrel reggaeton over the past couple of years, I'm gonna forget this in record time. Let's just move on. Number 87, Transparent Soul by Willow featuring Travis Barker.
Just so you know.
Okay, seriously, while there's a part of me that can respect the hustle of Travis Barker trying to get with all the kids to help usher in the next wave of pop punk, his style is starting to wear pretty thin, and you just know it's with his name and the fact that this is Willow Smith that this is charting at all. Now, thankfully, he's not producing the song, so the bass guitar is actually audible and provides some groove to this slice of pop punk. Shame that the lead guitar doesn't get that much spark, or that the drums rise above everything else in the mix by the time the hook comes in, although for a song that's clearly trying to be a little bit more downbeat, I guess that might make a little bit more sense. But it's not a song that feels all that raw or truly cutting, partially because dropping in the rougher layers around Willow's voice don't disguise how her delivery just does not have that much bite to it. She is a much more refined singer, and I'm not actually sure that works to her benefit here. But the content is also all about confronting fake people. And while I won't deny that Willow Smith has probably had to deal with her fair share of it being a child of the Smith family, I just have never been fond of call-out songs in this lane, really in any genre. Some of that has to do with just being songs about industry bullshit, which can get very tired very fast. But Willow Smith saying that she can see right through these people's souls? I don't know, that's a level of poetic license that her genre and delivery just can't sell. I don't know, this is one of those songs that should hit a lot harder than the nascent pettiness that runs through it. And when it's not particularly tuneful or fun, I mean, it's not bad, I get the appeal, but I'm not really a fan. Number 85, Party Life by Polo G featuring DaBaby.
You fought the hardest fight, wipe tears from your eyes, it feel good, don't it?
You know, outside of Rapstar, this might be the best song on Hall of Fame, and I'll admit I was kind of surprised to discover it. The guitar balances against the trap groove pretty effectively, and I kind of dig how it feels like a palpable struggle for Polo G to sell this party vibe, where he's almost trying to convince himself that he's actually enjoying it, especially as midway through the first verse he can't help but place himself back on the streets with all that bloodshed. But where Polo G is kind of listless or borderline regretful, DaBaby is outright aggressive, where not only is his faster flow feeling sharp as all hell, he seems very willing to fight for his right to party. And honestly, on handling that balance of intensity, that kind of grabs me a lot. His verse is good. Overall, the song might be short, but it's brutally effective, and definitely a favorite of mine. Give it a chance. Check this out. Next up, number 71, Type Shit by Migos and Cardi B.
This the type shit that got you trending. This the type shit that get your shit split.
So Migos actually didn't get enough songs for a proper album bomb this week. That means I'm covering all of them. Most of the ones that charted had features. And with Cardi B, I actually had some expectations, even if Tay Keith gave them an impressively bog-standard beat with your standard bassy trap percussion and warbling keyboard. And you know, when the content is a balance between shooting people and brand names, I have to go back to the performance and any decent lines, and, well, okay, Takeoff is actually trying to ramp up the intensity, and Offset's flow is pretty quick on the closing verse, but Cardi B is clearly the main attraction here, where she is the line, "My accountant think I'm gay, all I do is buy shit." And sadly, it might be the most memorable line on the song, but her verse is just more flexing on her haters, and when there's nothing else that gives this that much color, and honestly, that's not a lane I really like for Cardi B, I feel like I've been down this road so many times before. It's not bad per se, but it sure as hell is not memorable. Number 65, Malibu by Migos featuring Polo G.
I made me an M on the spot, I took 25 hoes in Malibu on my yacht. 25 hoes. I got 25 M's in the bank, no cap, no lie.
Okay, wow, this is not good at all. And to some extent, it should be better. I keep saying that Polo G is a good rapper, but the pocket he gets into on this production is a lot slower and clunkier than that of the Migos. So even if he's trying to be more thoughtful and touching on his gang come-up, he sounds completely out of place here. Now, granted, the watery percussion behind the cheap-sounding trap knock and those really ugly horns don't flatter anything, but it's not like the Migos brought their best to it either. Highlights include Offset saying he's stankin' something shitted in between all his brand name porn and threats. Quavo then telling a girl, sucking dick and flying spirit, bitch you need to free yourself, as if I haven't forgotten his bullshit with Saweetie and how often guys like him rely on girls flying out. And Takeoff actually is completely fine. I'm okay with this verse. It might be the only saving grace of the song, because otherwise, yeah, this is not good at all. Number 64, Solar Power by Lorde. Okay, I was really excited about this one, but I was also kind of cautious. I remember the last time Lorde crashed into the Hot 100 to start her album cycle in 2017, and I didn't love Greenlight right away. So after seeing some rather mixed reviews for this single, I had pretty low expectations, even with Jack Antonoff in the production, and Well, I could point out how much there's an obvious melodic pull from Loaded by Primal Scream, but really it's more drilling into that late 90s breezy summer vibe, where there's almost too many parallels to note to this sound, starting from the brittle acoustics, the faux psychedelic warping touches around the mix that build into a blockier groove, where of course the horns are going to come in on the outro, down to some of the distinctive backing vocal touches from Clairo and Phoebe Bridgers. Honestly, it's just kind of uncanny listening to how bright and summery a song like this is coming from Lorde, especially as she is a singer whose greatest strength comes from a lot of her raw intensity. Ergo, when she made a beach party song, it's hard to escape an odd feeling, especially with all the biblical references and then throwing away one's phone. A few older songwriters I follow on social media pointed out just how quickly sounds like this were commodified or framed as cultish in the years that followed after the 90s, and I'm not sure the video here helps the impression. Look, I don't know. A song like this playful and languid is a really awkward fit for Lorde. Maybe it might wind up growing on me, but as of now, yeah, it's decent. I don't quite think it works though. Number 61, Modern Day by Migos.
Break a bitch down, nigga. Break a bitch down, nigga. Yeah, bitch. Word around town, nigga. Heard your ass get around, nigga. Heard. Get the fuck from round, nigga. You ain't even from the town, nigga.
I mean, what is there even to say with this? Murda Beats gives them a standard watery beat, all their vocals sound recorded in different studios, Takeoff uncharacteristically sounds tuned out for half of his verse, after dropping the line, Arabian bitch in the passenger seat like she got an illegal bomb, and the sex, guns, and brand name references, they just kinda wash over me. It's not like there's much more to add beyond that. Yeah, they might have some worse songs, but you know what, I will agree with Quavo that they are definitely not the Fugees. For a brief moment, that trio actually tried. Next, number 38, Need to Know by Doja Cat.
I don't want to fight no tights. I just wanna fuck all night, yeah. Oh, whoa, whoa. Baby, I need to know.
You know, it's extremely depressing that Dr. Luke's hands are all over Doja Cat's career. She's got so much personality that's actually grown on me, and a fair amount of versatility in the production and sound that she wants to approach. She's just backed by a scumbag who was so bad at running Kemosabe that Sony kicked him out in 2017, and seems to hop from star to star to maintain relevance the past couple of years. I bring this up because primarily he's the sole producer of this song, and if this is his attempt at cloud rap production with the gauzy textures and the shuffling but overweight percussion, he can be shoved back into irrelevance anytime now, because not only does it feel ponderous and overweight and the suffocating bass presence, it does nothing to flatter Doja Cat, who is trying to go off with these horny triplet flows, and she's just got so little to work with in the groove. Honestly, she's frankly more interesting in style than any of the Migos songs I'm covering this week, in changing up her flow, down to the Pokemon reference on the second verse, and I just wish the atmosphere didn't feel so goddamn clunky. In other words, yeah, you know what, Doja Cat might be fine here. I just wish the rest of the song was anywhere near as good. Number 27, Avalanche by Migos.
Mama at home all alone, hustling, trying to keep this shit together. Mama! Young nigga smoking on gas, I'm living too fast, my foot on the pedal. Woo. If I go back to the past, my niggas ain't know we'll be rocking Coachella.
So the first song from Culture 3 features a pretty expensive sample from The Temptations, with lots of horns and a light funk rollick where it'd be nice if the bass beat actually had any momentum. But you know what, to the credit of the Migos, this is probably the best they sound in terms of varying their flows, even if there's no interplay between them and no real hook on the song either. And that's kind of baffling. You sample Papa is a Rolling Stone, you make one reference to it in the opening verse, and you can't make more out of it beyond 3 extended verses where the brand names, the sex references, and the guns feel as basic as ever. Again, probably the best I heard from them thus far, but mostly on production, if that. I'm not sure it's that memorable. Number 26, No Return by Polo G featuring Kid LAROI and Lil Durk.
Got everything that I want. I can't ever go back to the way shit was. I done came too far, put that on everything I love.
Alright, credit where it's due. This might be one of the better hooks I've heard from Kid LAROI. possibly ever, especially opposite the mournful violins and trap groove that can feel mostly effective in the haunted bleakness. I think part of it is that Kid LAROI isn't trying to sound like Juice WRLD for once when he's singing, but I also think a larger part of it is just how Polo G and Lil Durk set up the gangland scenes that they're trying to leave behind, but still cast long shadows over their lives today, especially as Lil Durk will then reference the death of King Von to killers who don't understand the violent ethics of the streets and how his passing still has really affected him. Now, it's not unfamiliar territory for either of our rappers, and I do think a little bit more distinctive detail might help this stick out a bit more, but beyond that, yeah, good. There's still a high ceiling here. No issues. I like it. Number 16, Thot Shit by Megan Thee Stallion.
Hands on my knees, shaking hands on my thigh shit. Hands on my knees, hands on my knees. Hands on my knees, shaking hands.
So before Megan Thee Stallion really caught fire on the charts, she had an era/alter ego called Tina Snow, the title of her 2018 EP that eventually led to Big Ol' Freak charting on the Hot 100. It was also an era where her lyrical dexterity got a bit more praise, and thus if this is the lead-off single to Tina Snow 2, we could have a lot of fun here, because this song's pretty damn great. For one, this might be Megan's sharpest set of flows and punchlines to date, especially on her third verse, still around the topic of her being hot as hell and working her way through guys, but you can also tell she's more in line to give the middle finger to the conservative audience who lost their shit about WAP, even as she's now got the accolades and the industry support to back her up, so she's going at all competition, male or female. And we pair it with those haunted vocal fragments off the jagged synth, the sharper skitters, and the bounce scratches, she can really hit the balance between making an enticing strip club anthem and something that's legit intimidating real effectively. Again, it's got me wondering whether or not she'll hop on production from an act like Clipping. That would sound cool as hell. She could pull it off. But in the meantime, yeah, absolutely, it slaps, and more impressively, it reflects Megan Thee Stallion showing the level of refinement at which I knew she was capable. I think this is a great song. I'd really like to see it become a hit, if only because it's pissing off all the right people. Make sure you check it out. Something special. And finally, number 15, Having Our Way by Migos featuring Drake.
I'm having my way. Set out here having his way. Way out here having his way. And like the third me go out. Take. Bitch. What?
I mean, it's not as clunky as Walk and Talk It, but is that really a benefit when we still wind up with the same desaturated melody, this time with a chiptune cackle brought in as punctuation, lurking behind an undercooked trap progression that's got no real punch? And I include the content and all that. For a hook that's all about loading guns, there's very little in the way of menace when the Migos ramble through their flexes and brand names with the same stale triplet flows and then leave Drake to take the lead on the hook, where he sounds perpetually disinterested on his verse as he lets bars hang without good punchlines, where it almost sounds like a painful obligation to just churn through his verse. Yeah, okay, some of the pool table references, they were actually really well connected, but when his verse basically feels unfinished in patches, you can't really appreciate any good construction he has. And as such, yeah, you can say it's just standard Migos, but Drake hopping on triplet flows is not enough of a novelty to make this all that good or all that interesting. And thus for our week, it should be no surprise that Migos are getting both of the worst here, with Malibu with Polo G as easily the worst. And you know, I think I'm gonna go with Modern Day as a dishonorable mention. At least that set of pool ball punchlines from Drake, that was just enough, somewhat clever. Now, best of the week though, honorable mentions going to Party Life from Polo G featuring DaBaby. I'm giving best of the week to Megan Thee Stallion with Thot Shit. It goes harder than frankly everything else here in production and content and flows. It's just really not much of a contest. Next week though, from what I can tell, we're going to catch a bit of a breather until the next wave of projects at the end of June. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Hall.